Hello, Middle East monitors, dear guests. As we mark 10 years since the launch of Palestine Book Awards, thank you for joining us today for a live conversation with Natalie Handal. Hello, Natalie.
Hi, Elif. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, with one of the prominent poets, Natalie, and me, together we will discuss her seventh poetry collection called as Life in a Country album, which won the Palestine Book Awards Creator Prize last year. But first of all, I would like to shortly mention about her life story. Born to a Palestinian family from Bethlehem, the French-American poet and writer, dear Natalie, she brings a particular Palestinian sensibility to her poems and to her encounters. Natalie is the author of 8 plays, editor of 2 anthologies, including The Poetry of Arab Women, a contemporary anthology, winner of Pan Oakland Josephine Miles Book Award, and which has been named one of the top 10 feminist books by The Guardian. So, first of all, my first question is, what is your inspiration while writing your 7th book collection called as Life in a Country album? Can you please mention it a little bit? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much for asking me this. Well, Life in a Country album explores questions of identity and home, and in particular, Palestine. What is a country? It's unsafe yet safeguarding. People have massacred other people in the name of country, and they have often killed without ever exchanging a word or a glance. Yet we all seem to need to belong to a country for various reasons, be it ancestral or ideological, patriotic or practical. For me, the word country has been part of my life, and I've been questioning it ever since. In this collection, I'm asking, how do we love a country? And maybe more importantly, does it love us? I'm from Bethlehem, as you've just said, and I have never questioned that. I'm a Mediterranean. But growing up in the world didn't know where that was. It was a place in the Bible or in ancient stories. Of course, today people are more aware, but when I was growing up, that was the case. And my exilic and diasporic reality raised questions, and often it othered me, and I'm exploring that in the book. I was never made to feel like I fully belong anywhere, not to the Caribbean, to Latin America, to Europe, to the US, to the Middle East, or to Asia. And growing up, that was painful. But it also then later on made me pose a lot of fundamental questions, which clarified my own reality to myself. And this is in the book. And I realized that actually no one could take anything away from me. And I can be entirely from all these places, that I was authentic to my own story, which is an extension of all these places that we find in the book, as there's the French album, the American album, Mediterranean album, and the mixed album. It also made me understand that the depth of what it means to be from Palestine. In the end, when I finished writing the book, and also throughout the years, I circled back to Bethlehem, which is actually a mirror of the world, worldly as I am, yet, of course, deeply rooted in its own folklore and traditions. So this is what the book is doing. It's really looking at all these spaces and primarily taking into consideration that the Palestinian experience is vast and wide, and giving it a country. And perhaps the country is the page, perhaps the country is the book, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is very important. After I read your book, you know, I realized that your poems cover diverse topics such as Bosnian multi-ethnic culture, Jasmines of Damascus, you know, Turkish entari, it is traditional woman's wedding costume, or Palestinian tatris, you know, from Bethlehem. So, can we say that you are the poet of the cities?
Mm.
So, how can you combine cities and your poems?
Mm. You know, Elif, I'm an urbanite. You know, cities to me are visible and invisible. They blur and they sharpen. And my poems are created in that intersection, in that crisscross. And like cities, I'm in motion. And what is motion? Motion is poetry. And poetry migrates and translates the world. Each time I enter a city, I am the past, the present, I'm native, I'm foreigner, I'm the future. You know, I always say the city is like the heart. We only discover a very small part of its infinite, innumerable parts. But we can't stop searching for the questions in its answers. So, you know, for me, and I've seen my reflection in cities. Take a city like New York, for instance. It's the world, and my experience has been the world. So to find the world in the city is perhaps what feels so familiar to me. And I'm always longing. You know, I'm one place and I'm missing another place. So when I'm in the city, I can be closer to all the places and all the languages and all the beats and all the music that I'm missing. But that said, I want to say that I'm also from the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and my language is also the language of the sea. And for me, it's a language that's born in waves and ports. It's a fusion of tongues. And I also see myself in those crossroads. You know, Mediterranean people from the Mediterranean, we are navigators and we're interpreters. And I think our richness is the richness of the Mediterranean is it's the plurality, ethnic, cultural, linguistic, artistic. So I also see myself in that.
Yeah, wow, very strong and very sensitive. On the other hand, thank you so much for this touching explanation, actually. And you know, you are from Bethlehem, as I said before. So, what are your source of inspiration in your poetry as one of the prominent Palestine-born poet? You know, especially your poetry on Palestine, it is very important. 2 years ago, I watched a movie. It is called Lemon Tree. Of course, you know it. Mm-hmm. This is the art, like poetry. Film is also art. So this film describes the legal efforts of a Palestinian widow to stop Israeli defense minister, her next door neighbor, from destroying the lemon trees in her family farm. So at the same time, she develops a human bond with the minister's wife, you know. So it is very touching human story. So starting from this point of view, what kind of human bond did you create and build with Palestinian people in your life and with your poetry?
Well, okay, so there's multi-part. Let me start by saying what the source of my inspiration, which is love, really, and all that it creates, from whether it's from breath to heartbeat, trees to the horizon. And obviously, as I was mentioning with the Mediterranean, it's everywhere in my work, even when it's not. It's present even when it's not. Palestine is present in my work, even when it's not. And you talk about trees, you mentioned the lemon trees, and as you can see, I'm in a grove of beautiful olive trees. And you know.
Amazing, beautiful.
Yes, when we say, whenever you see an olive tree, you're in the Mediterranean. But very sadly, in my city, in Bethlehem, we hardly have any trees left in Bethlehem. And that's, of course, environmentally an issue, right? So there are this idea that you do not have a tree, you do not have a patch, especially coming from fields. This Bethlehem and its greater surroundings were once fields and of olive trees, endless olive trees. Now we only see concrete. Mm-hmm. And that's extremely devastating and continues to inform what it means, what this all means. What exactly are we searching for? What exactly does it mean to exist in a landscape? And what is that landscape when it's vanishing? And you talk about what are my connections to the Palestinians. As you know, we are scattered, right, all over the world. And even Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza are displaced. So because I've had passports that has enabled me to go to the West Bank and to 1948 Palestine, I have been able to see this land and connect to the people. And of course, I have family and to the greater, and I have had, as you know, a very wide experience with the Palestinian diaspora. And when I was growing up, and these experiences are vast, and we have to look at them generationally as well. So, for instance, what was the generation that went to London in the 50s? What is the generation? What is it like to have been a Palestinian in Berlin in the 60s? And what is it to be a Palestinian in Berlin today, or in any city in the world? So generationally, and I'm in contact because I have a very big family, which is scattered all over the world. And I also teach. I teach the Arab and Asian diaspora in literature and film. So I'm constantly connecting to the beats of the new generations, what's being created. And as you know, when we create art, we are also reflecting the communities and the social, cultural context of the political context of the moment. So I stay connected to them via art, and of course personally, and going back to Palestine.
Yeah, it's amazing. So from that point, you said that art and culture of the homeland, art and culture of that region. So why is it important to reflect Palestinian art and culture via poetry? People, especially nowadays in the media, Palestinians still, people, they are thinking that Palestinian is a crisis, a Palestinian issue is a big crisis and big gap between Israel and Palestine. So by the help of literature and art, by the help of artists like you, or one of the prominent also poets like Mahmoud Darwish, or like this Lemon Tree movie, as I mentioned before. So why are they so important to reflect the real potential of the region and Palestinian people, their real potential and their real power, especially women, in terms of women rights? Can you please highlight a little bit, mention about this issue?
Well, what I would say is that what art does is takes us back to our humanity. Mm-hmm. And then you're not only Palestinian, but you are a woman, you are a father, you are a brother. It takes us back to love. It takes us back to the human, the lives that we all live in the world. And poetry, for me, is the closest we are to prayer. It's the closest we are to breath, to divinity, to mystery, and it heals, right? It's compassion, it's coexistence. There's no borders with poetry. Mm-hmm. On a page, we can all unite. That's extremely powerful. And on that page, it's no longer about where you're from, or it's about being human. And that is an extremely powerful experience to go to. I mean, in times of crisis, what is the first, we often go to poetry in times of crisis, right? As now, in this pandemic and in general, in crisis, poems remind us that we can and we will survive, right? So I love to say that poems take us the farthest in the smallest space, and I think it holds us. Poems hold us the way love should, unconditionally.
Yeah, that's true. It's amazing, especially in the age of pandemic.
Yes.
Your words reminds me of Rumi's words. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. So I think you highlighted a very good point. And from that point, I would like to ask you, how poetry helps us, how can poetry help people's mental health, especially in the age of pandemic and quarantine? Because, for me, the daily poems have become a routine part of my morning, and they always seem to resonate with difficulties that I'm currently facing, like everybody during this lockdown. So that means that each morning I'm given a few minutes to just consider the meaning behind my poetry choices and the value behind what I care about, and ways to better love those closest to me, my friends, my network, my family. So these few minutes every morning have become a centering time of self-actualization by the help of poetry. So as one of the prominent poet, in 21st century, what is your message for the humanity in the age of pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Well, you just said it. You basically said that poetry gave you hope. Poetry reminded you that you will survive, that we will survive. And poetry took you closer to what is most essential to all of us, which is love, right? It held you together. So really that's it. It's that simple and that powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. And we need that hope, especially during this lockdown quarantine. You're right. Okay, thank you so much.
Really. And it's beauty. It's beauty. There's such a strength in that.
Yeah, and it is also remedy. In the UK, we have one shop, and it is pharmacy, poetry pharmacy. It's amazing, and you can go and you can pick your poem and drink your tea, while reading this. So it's like a remedy. It's like a farm. You can pick your drug, tablet.
Right.
Every morning, it's good therapy for me to pick this poetry and read it and embrace it and digest it and to try to apply in my life. It's really amazing.
Of course, it's prayer. As it's the closest thing we have to prayer. And I could say that in my lifetime, poetry saved me. I think many poets can say that it has saved me. And I remember when growing up, when things, especially when we were moving a lot and there was political turmoil, the page was like my shield, and it was a home. And these poems, held me together as strongly as anything would, maybe even stronger. So that's the power to me of poetry.
Yes, that's amazing, really. It's good points. It's a shield for everyday life. And, you know, it helps us, you know, to stop acting so small. We can understand by the help of poetry, we can understand that we are the universe in aesthetic motion, you know, so we can trust our energy and our power. Uh, so it's amazing, really.
Absolutely. I want to say how happy I am to be here, to be talking to you, and especially how deeply moved I am to have won this Palestine Book Award because, you know, growing up, I wasn't able to say I was Palestinian when I was growing up. You know, I was constantly told I exist, but I don't exist. I'm real and imagined. So to win the Palestine Book Award is immense. It not only in my as literary achievement, but as existence. Mm-hmm. And to see the 10 years of books and to be in that company makes me proud. And I'm deeply, deeply happy to have won this award. It means a lot to me. One of the most important awards for me.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like a sunlight for you after darkness, really. And you got this prize award in the age of pandemic, so it is really timely award for you.
It's like a whole. It's really a huge light. It's luminous. Really brings so much light and hope. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. As a MEMO, Middle East Monitor, we wish you will win maybe Nobel Prize or any other prize in the near future.
Allah, thank you.
You know, there is no difference between Palestinian Book Awards and Nobel Prize, I think, in terms of effectiveness and meaning, you know. So I think they are all serving for humanity, all awards serving for humanity. And also you are serving for our mental health, and also you are touching our heart. You will continue to touch our heart by the help of your poetry and your heart as well. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for today. You join us from Rome, and we had a very amazing discussion today with Nathalie. Thank you so much, really, for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
It is our pleasure. Today, as we mark 10 years since the launch of Palestinian Book Awards, we had a conversation with one of our book writers, Nathalie Handal. She won Palestinian Book Awards Creative Prize last year. So she joined us from Rome, and we had a very, very fruitful discussion about her book and about her future projects and about the power of poetry. So thank you for joining us, and see you next time.
See you next time.